Welcome back to the third edition of our Best Bets episodes. Uh, if anyone hasn't been following along, we're off to a great start this season. We're 5 weeks into the year, up 12 and a half units so far. And you can continue to follow our bets through our Discord, which we have linked in our Instagram. And we post pretty frequently on our Twitter account as well. And you can also follow our action account at Mainely Hoops 1, where you can see our entire bet slip for every day and keep up with exactly how we're doing, what we're putting in for bets, before maybe we even post about them. So great way to keep up with them there. But as we talked about in our last episode, all our bets are located in Discord. Typically before we post them anywhere else. So always a great resource if you want to get in on lines early as soon as we post them, because there's oftentimes some quick movement.
Yeah, and we'll try to throw lines in or throw bets in the day before too. Like if you want to get them in super early, because those openers, they'll move super quick. So yeah, and the only place you'll get those is on the Discord. Like the best bets articles won't be up until the morning of the games, and lines may have moved a couple points by then. So just to get the best value that you can, and just make sure to join the Discord. And we're talking about bets in there. We're mentioning leans and stuff if you have any questions about the game. So yeah, definitely join in on that.
So as we talked about in our episode of wrapping up the weekend games, looking ahead to this week, not a great week of games. Attributing that mostly to finals going on at these colleges. But there are a few good ones and a few decent spots out there to get some action in. The first one we're going to take a look at is Rutgers, who lost to Ohio State on Saturday. Now they're playing Penn State at home. Penn State coming off that big win on Thursday over Purdue in a game that they forced 22 turnovers. So, this will be an interesting game. Rutgers favored by 1 point.
Yeah, and I like Rutgers to take home the home win here. I think they can win by a decent margin here in this game, but the money line's also fine here. Probably get it around minus 120, minus 125. I just worry about the late game pressure of Penn State a little bit late in games against a younger team. But overall, Rutgers does take care of the ball super well. They're top 50 in offensive turnover rate in the country. They do it with guys like Dylan Harper, who plays well beyond his years. Jordan Durkak and Jeremiah Williams are also very solid with the ball. They're veterans and just solid. They don't turn the ball over all that often. And Penn State's offense is just playing over their heads. They had a matchup advantage over Purdue as well. They were able to turn them over basically whenever they wanted to. Like when Fletcher Lawyer's your number 2 handler, it's not really going to go all that well.
Especially when Braden Smith was in foul trouble in the first half. That's just recipe for disaster for Purdue. So, I think Rutgers can handle that a little bit better.
For sure. Yeah. Penn State, like I said, they're shooting over their heads right now. Zach Hicks is shooting 50% from 3 this year. That's not going to continue for a guy that's shot 35% throughout his career. They just don't really have a ton of offensive weapons in general. They've been able to take advantage of inferior opponents, teams that don't handle the ball, by being able to get out, run in transition, and just get easy layups a lot of the time. Uncontested layups really helps their overall 2-point field goal percentage when they're not really as good of an interior offense in the half court as they're perceived to be. So Rutgers here in a hype home spot, coming off 3 consecutive losses against a Penn State team that's riding super high. Probably couldn't be riding any higher than they are right now.
Yeah, this is a big letdown spot for Penn State, traveling on the road against the Rutgers team that's probably going to be playing pretty desperate. They need this game. Like you said, lost 3 in a row. Dylan Harper's been great. He didn't have a great game on Saturday, so look for him to bounce back in this game. And hopefully Ace Bailey doesn't shoot them out of this game. This would be a classic game for him in a close spread for him to shoot them out of it. But I think they're going to play through Dylan Harper enough because he's going to have the ball in his hands trying to navigate the pressure of Penn State. they're not going to be giving it to Ace Bailey a ton in those situations. So look for Dylan Harper to really control this game, I think. And I'm with you. I think that Rutgers gets it done and picks up their first conference win.
Definitely. I think Harper's ready to handle a pressure defense like this, like super physical. Like he's not going to get bothered by these smaller Penn State guards.
Yeah. Now the next game, we also talked about in our other episode, Arkansas and Michigan. Arkansas plus 4.5. I've also seen some plus 5s out there.
Yeah, the money's gone the other way. I saw this open at 2.5. So kind of going against the market here. But I'm willing to say that the line's gone a little bit too far. It's a decent sell high spot on Michigan, who they're coming off some really nice wins at Wisconsin, and then a tight win against Iowa at home. So, but I don't really view this team as being elite. I don't think they've truly figured out everything just yet. There's some underlying stuff that they haven't really solved yet, like defensive rebounding and taking care of the basketball. And I do think those are two areas that Arkansas can exploit with their size and athleticism. And they can also handle the Michigan front court of Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden. They love to run that 4-5 pick and roll using Wolf as the point forward. But I think Arkansas has plenty of defenders to be able to handle that. Although I do worry about how Coach Cal makes adjustments throughout games against really good teams. I do think this is a really good motivational spot for the Razorbacks to, pick up a big win. And Michigan on the defensive side, they'll also filter you into the mid-range, which is that's the area that Arkansas likes to operate in. So if they're going to take those shots, they might as well be open and fairly efficient looks for guys like Fland, Adu Thiero, and John L. Davis a little bit. A revenge game for John L. Davis, if you want to put any stock into that, against a guy in Dusty May that he didn't follow to the Michigan program. But there's obviously no hard feelings there. But
he did try to, right? He did try to.
I think so. I think it was an academic issue.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. But yeah, I like a motivated Arkansas team here to, at least cover the number against a team in Michigan that I think is pretty overvalued. I think this line should be close to where it was at the opener at 2.5.
Yeah, I'd be on the Arkansas side as well, and I think that Trevon Brazile is going to be able to stretch the Michigan defense, allowing guards like Flan, Thiero to be able to attack the rim the way that they're capable of. And like you said, I think Davis is going to be looking at this game as one he probably circled on his calendar right from the start of the season. Neutral site game. I'm surprised this line's worked its way up to 5. I expect Cal's team to be ready to go, and I think, I don't know if I'll go as far as to say they'll win, but I'm with you. This Michigan team, all the way up to 14, I'm not really buying it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather get Cal as a dog too. His teams are always more talented than the other team is going to play. He's got the talent edge here in this game as well, and talent will always play up, especially when it's motivated and hasn't, had a marquee win yet. So, yeah, I'll take the Razorbacks. Plus, I mean, if I'm getting 5, I'll take the 5.
Yeah. Another game tomorrow. URI coming in 9-0, playing against Brown on the road. I think you had it down at plus 5.5. I actually just saw it down to plus 4.5.
Yeah, it took some. URI took some money early. Actually, it opened around 4, got bet up to 6, and it's back down to 4.5. It's been a little bit of a tug of war in the market. But this is a very similar spot to when URI just hosted Providence this weekend. In-state rival here, if you want to call it a rivalry. But Brown's beaten this team 2 years in a row with a very similar rosters. So maybe Brown has some sort of matchup edge in this game as well. And Brown's going to be super hungry in this game for a win to, take down an undefeated team, which they're not going to really have any other opportunities to do this year. But URI, obviously they've had a good year so far. Extremely lucky performances. They've had to make a ton of comebacks. They've won a ton of close games this year. Teams are shooting 25% from 3 against them, and they're in the 99th percentile in unguarded 3-point percentage allowed. So they don't give them up all that often, but when they do give up the shots, nobody's making them. And that's mostly luck-based almost all luck based, actually. Like if you're giving up open shots and just, teams aren't dropping them in, like it's obviously a luck factor there. And Brown has the athleticism to play up against better competition, against an A10 opponent, as they've shown the last couple of years, led by Landon Lewis, who's a super athletic defender at 6'7". He plays a little bit at the 5. He plays way bigger than his 6'7" listed height. Very good on the glass, and he's a great rim protector for his size. So, yeah, give me Brown to keep up with this team athletically. They're going to be more motivated in this matchup. Yeah, and I personally think they win the game outright, but I definitely like them to keep this inside the number.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's a good sell spot on Rhode Island after their win over Providence. They came off of an emotional comeback win over their in-state rival, proving to many that they're the best team in the state. And now they're going to play Brown just a couple days later. I think it's a tough spot for them on the road against the Brown team that's solid. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if Brown wins this game either.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just think, Torvik has this game at like Rhode Island -1. And, so he's not really overreacting to the performances that they've had. And that's how I typically am. I don't like to overreact to, nine games against like not fantastic competition. Granted, they beat Providence at home. But yeah, I'm going to be the guy that typically more underreacts to these performances. And like I can punch back the other way when the market overreacts.
Yeah. Now I'm going to throw out one more game for tomorrow. For the second Tuesday in a row, I'm going to be on Miami. Miami plus 16 against Tennessee tomorrow. I've seen some 16.5s out there. But to me, this is just Tennessee being overvalued a little bit. I don't see them as the number one team in the country. They've played good basketball. But, I think Auburn's the best team in the country. Don't get me wrong. Like Tennessee's a top level team, but I don't view them in that upper tier of college basketball teams. And Miami, eventually they're not going to win tomorrow, but if I were a betting man, I would maybe consider throwing $1 on their money line. Just, for those of you that utilize Fliff out there, you might get a free $1. Throw $1 on Miami money line and thank me later. I think that Miami keeps this game reasonable. I think they have the offensive talent. They shot it really poorly against Clemson on Saturday. I hope that they're ready to bounce back against the Tennessee team. And like you've lost 6 in a row. And we talked about this a little bit last week. Like they're on the verge of, just spiraling and being completely lost for the rest of this season. But they have some guys that are in their last year of eligibility. Like, I don't think they want to just go down without a fight. So, this could be like even if they're not going to be a tournament team, like this could be a season defining win, kind of playing spoiler against or making at least the number one team in the country for right now work for it a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it's a spot at this point where they're going to play with nothing to lose. They're going to play super free against the number one team in the country. And they actually do have the physicality to at least compete a little bit and at least resist them off the glass a little bit here. And they do have the shooting to get over the top of this Tennessee defense that does give up a lot of threes or a high attempt rate. They're usually pretty good at defending it. So, but overall, I don't know if I could put my money on Miami again. And one thing, I definitely don't utilize Fliff, but as well, if they give you the free $1, like it's the free $1, but I'm not going to utilize it.
I know we have some users out there, so I'm speaking to them directly. No, I know one for sure, and so do you. But Hurricanes, give me Hurricanes plus 16. They got to get right at some point, and it probably won't lead to a victory, but maybe a moral victory tomorrow. We'll see.
There's no more moral victories with this program, I don't think. After 6 straight losses, the only thing you want is wins. And, it'd be nice if they could pull this out and maybe give themselves some hope, but I just don't see it.
No. And now the final game we're going to talk about for this week comes in a Torvik projected spread on Thursday. Iowa State comes in at 4 for Iowa State at Iowa. Talked about this game on the other episode as well, but this should be an interesting game.
Yeah, I don't know if this is going to be an actual bet for me, because I am super high on Iowa State, and I don't think the market's caught up to how good this team really is. But I would take Iowa +4 here. I do think they have advantages on the offensive side. I think they can space out this Iowa State defense that likes to keep everything on one side of the floor. Those skip passes to threes is going to be super valuable in this game. And Iowa takes care of the ball at an elite rate. And Iowa State loves to create their value by, getting turnovers for touchdowns, really. So, and I think Iowa can kind of keep up with them on the interior. Well, not keep up with them, but at least have a little bit of resistance, especially if they get Seydou Traore back. If Traore is back, I probably will have money on +4. And because I do like that combo of him and Owen Freeman up front, they can at least provide some rim protection. And I am a little bit higher on this guard play in general with Brock Harding, Josh Dix, and Peyton Sanford, and his brother Price Sanford. They can all hit shots, and it's really going to give this defense some issues, especially having to go on the road and playing in a big rivalry game. This Iowa team is going to be super amped for this game. So I mean, as is Iowa State, but I think it'll be maybe a little bit of a reality check here. I'm super high on this Iowa State team, and the fact that I'm going against them, I think, just speaks to the matchup advantage.
Yeah. So as we said, not a ton of great games this week, but we also wanted to throw out there a small segment about national title bets to monitor. There's some lines out there maybe right now that could be worth grabbing. I know you had a few in mind, Cody.
Yeah, and the team that I just faded is one of them. It's the Iowa State Cyclones. I had money on them in the preseason, and there's still a 3,000 out there if you can find it on FanDuel. Offense was always the question with Iowa State, but they've improved it, and they're actually a better team on the offensive side, according to KenPom, than they are on the defensive side, and that is massive for a defense that I think is easily top 10. I think that's big. The front court is much improved in the front court up front, so they're going to be able to make plays for others. They're going to be able to score at the rim. They're going to tougher cover in a tournament setting. So that's my best bet on the board for sure, value-wise. I don't think the market's caught up to truly how good this team is.
It's pretty crazy that the number 3 team in the country right now is plus 3,000 odds, and in some places still. Like, let's show some respect to the Cyclones and TJ Otzelberger.
There's not like a well-known national contender, even though they were one of the best teams in the country last year. And I think they got significantly better. And I just if they would have beat Auburn in Maui, they blew an 18-point lead, I think they'd be viewed as the best team in the country right now. And their number would be 1,500 at best. They're the number 1 team in the country with a bullet right now. If they beat Auburn and then go through the next few games with wins as well, I think they're right up there with Auburn and Duke, who I have, slightly ahead of them.
Yeah. Now another team you had out there, team that I wasn't super high on, but I could see them being a long shot here, or a path to get there, and that's St. John's.
Yeah, I like them. There's plus 5,000 out there on DraftKings. The shooting hasn't been as full as we kind of thought it was going to be. If you would have told me they finished inside the top 200 in 3-point percentage nationally, I probably wouldn't have believed you. They're sitting at 170 right now. The shooting has been with Davon Smith, Aaron Scott shot it okay. Wiltshire and Dunlap have been solid as well. And they have super talented veteran guard depth that can get you a long way in March. And, obviously they have Rick Pitino. He's a great game planner on short notice. He's been in these situations before. And it's just not easy to win a national championship. You're not given a national championship, and he was able to win it. Although that one got taken away from him at Louisville, but it's still viewed as a championship in my opinion. And the defense is super versatile for St. John's. They can guard a lot of different offensive styles, and that's big in a tournament setting, as opposed to system style defenses. Guys like Aaron Scott and RJ Lewis can guard pretty much anybody in the country. They're super switchable, and that's a really good characteristics. So I'll take a stab on St. John's at plus 5,000.
Yeah. And then your final team you had out there was Duke. This is a team that I think, and as we've talked about, they're only going to continue to get better and better as the season goes on, especially on their defense is already great. It's going to get better, I think, as the season goes on. And then the offensive end, I think they're just going to be able to figure out what works for them in late game situations, especially, right? They're going to play some games in the ACC. They're going to be tough just by nature of like being on the road in the ACC. So they're going to have to figure out how to win ugly sometimes. And I think they'll be able to figure that out as the season goes on. And they're going to be right there at the top in the mix at the end of the season.
Yeah, I think so too. And like the one issue we've always had is their half court offense late in games. Like I think it's been a bit overblown. Flag's made a couple turnovers late in games, but they have so much time to figure it out. They can figure it out in conference play. Hopefully they play in enough close games to kind of get them ready for the tournament. But this defense is arguably the best in the country. And like just like St. John's, they're super adaptable to any style with all the athletes, with all the versatility that they have. And the thing is, I think this number can only go down in ACC play just because like they could realistically go undefeated, but with how poor this ACC is, like UNC hasn't really performed. Pittsburgh is starting to kind of slide. Clemson's obviously solid, but they're not really an elite team. They're probably a top 20 team at best. So they're not really going to get challenged all that much. And that's only going to reduce this number. Like a team goes 18-2 or better in a conference, in a good conference, and they're not going to be viewed as a team that's plus 1,000 to win in March Madness. So yeah, give me Duke. I think by the time March comes around, and I think they're going to be viewed as the best team in the country by tournament time.
Yeah. I have no arguments there. I mean, the defense is just going to be so good that I think regardless of if the offense is there or not, like that's going to be able to keep them in games in March without a doubt. So, at plus 900, I think that's probably the best value you're going to get because they're going to win a lot of games in conference.
Yeah, absolutely. I took them before the Kansas game because I thought if they won that Kansas game, we would never see anything close to 900 again. Like if they won that game, we'd probably see like 650 right now. And the fact that they lost it created a little more value, but since they beat Auburn, it came back down. I think this is a good time to grab it.
Yeah. And now I know you have a few conference title looks out there as well, starting with FAU and the American.
Yeah. Basically a fate of Memphis, who has come back down to earth. They just lost to Ark State. And I think Memphis they're too volatile to win a conference title. They've never won a conference title with all of the talent that Penny Hardaway's had. They haven't even really been that close to winning. Like last year, they were supposed to be surefire American Conference champions. And obviously USF came up through and won it. But I don't even know where Memphis finished, but I don't think I think it might have been top 4 or 5, but they were never really in contention for it. And give me the team with the most upside in the conference to do it. Like they might have the best offense in the entire conference, maybe outside of Memphis, who probably rates a little bit higher right now. They have elite guard play in Leland Walker, Kiki Tandy, and Caleb Glenn, who can all hit shots at any time. They have a ton of weapons that'll play off of each other. Defense is the only concern. But a lot of teams have flaws in this league. A lot of teams have a side of the ball that's just not nearly as good as the other. And I'll just take the offense that has more upside. And John Jacobs has proved that he's a great offensive coach. He was the offensive coordinator at Baylor, and he has a very good roster set up here to potentially go on a run. And at plus 1,400, like I'm definitely going to play the upside.
Yeah. St. John's is another one out there. I know you mentioned them as a national title bet, but also in their conference.
Yeah, not much more I need to add. It's mostly just a fade of UConn and Marquette, who Marquette's definitely overperformed. UConn doesn't look like this world beater anymore. So the St. John's might have the most balance in this conference. So I think 500 is a little bit too long for a UConn team that's like, it's going to be every team's Super Bowl going into this. Like they're gettable right now after 2 national championships. So I think St. John's has a path.
Yeah, especially at the value of that number, I think.
For sure. I think 500 is a solid number.
And then two other shout outs before we wrap things up. St. Mary's plus 700 to win the West Coast Conference, and Illinois at plus 800 to win the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think with St. Mary's, it basically just comes down to the two games against Gonzaga. Although the WCC is a bit better this year, it's typically always come down to those two games. And at plus 700, I'll take my chance that they can get it done or at least split and then win on a tiebreaker. And Gonzaga can be vulnerable as well against teams like San Francisco or Wazoo, who's been great. Even Santa Clara has the upside to take them down. So at 700, that line's too long for a Gales team that's much improved on the offensive end. And then with Illinois, I'm also just playing the upside there. I've actually started to buy into them a bit more on the defensive end. I think they have a super high floor. And in a conference that's it's super up in the air, I'll take the team that has arguably the most offensive talent. And the defensive floor seems to be fairly high right now.
Yeah, no doubt. Like we've talked about with that Big Ten conference, like there's no surefire elite team, so they're going to be able to, I think, it's wide open. It's wide open. So this Illinois team could certainly do some damage.
Yeah, and Purdue's kind of proven that they're not that like the surefire class of the conference. Like I kind of thought they were going to be entering the year. So it's definitely time to, change my opinion on that and go in a different direction.
Yeah. So, as for that, as we said at the top of the show, not a great week of games, but a few plays out there that are worthy of getting some action on. But if anything else comes up, make sure you're joining the Discord, following us on Action, as we talked about at the top of the show, as that will be where we place our bets or post our bets right away. So if you're looking to get in on some action and want to get those early lines before they get out of control, you're going to want to join those pages and follow those accounts. But other than that, those are our best plays so far for this week. But if any others come up, we'll be sure to do some write-ups on them and put them in the Discord and put them on the website. So definitely stay tuned. But as for the third edition of the Best Bets episode, that's all for now.